I'm not talking about those hybrid beings who mate with the spirit realm. Their union doesn't always result in giants being born, because they are products of the spiritual realm. Why do these beings from the spirit realm want to mate with humans? Their goal is to alter the genetic makeup that humans were created with. The purpose of mating is to change the genetic design God gave humans. Why? Because human genes come from God. So when the genes God created in humans are altered, it's meant to dishonor God's creation. It's like saying to God, "You didn't do a good job creating them." See, after I mated with them, the children born are so tall, so big, so strong, and so powerful. The people you created are so tiny and powerless. So their goal was to humiliate what God made. Even more importantly, they wanted to take over the role God gave humans to oversee the earth, the position of authority over the land. That's why they needed giants. With giants, you look like a grasshopper compared to me, so I could crush you with a single step. Of course I can rule over you. Of course I can take charge of this land. See, back in the Garden of Eden, God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden and told him, "You are to manage and take care of this land." Later, Adam sinned and was driven out of the Garden of Eden. He was still outside the Garden of Eden. But after Cain sinned, God sent him away from his presence. Does God banish people gradually? So what did Cain say? He said, "If I leave your presence, then a lot of people will want to kill me." So, who was there at that time? It was these other people. He was afraid of these giants. So God put a mark on Cain's forehead. Did God mark him by putting a label on him? Like sticking on a sticker? No. It's a sign from the spiritual realm. These beings are creations of the spiritual realm. So they recognize God's symbol. It's like how we use a company logo today. Wearing a company hat. When people see the hat, they know right away which company it's from. So Cain wore the mark that God gave him. That showed he was made by God. That's why they didn't dare to harm Cain. When the sons of God came and had children with human women, and their descendants were born, it was meant to replace the humans God created with that DNA. God commanded him to oversee them. These beings are dissatisfied, so I'm going to take charge. I have to prove you're not good. I have to prove that God's creation isn't good enough. I have to prove that God's wisdom falls short. I want to show that I'm superior to you. This is an end times phenomenon. It's about spiritual beings intermingling. They conspire to seize authority over this land. In terms of modern technology, with today's technology, there's no need to create giants, to show that I'm above you, to show that I can disgrace God's creation. He doesn't need to create a giant. So what can he do instead? He can directly use a printing method to alter the sequence of human genoso. Having children becomes as easy as ordering off a menu. I want one with double eyelids. I want one who's 5'6" tall, or maybe 5'8". I want one with brown skin. I want one with blonde hair. I want a boy. Or a girl. I want their IQ, their memory, their muscles, their height. Basically, I want to design the perfect person in my mind. Kids who never get sick today. Let's take a look at. There are a lot of genetically modified foods these days. They're basically rearranging the genes. So, in the future, once gene technology becomes mainstream, then the people created naturally by God, people like us, original humans, will we end up being at the very bottom of society? Could that happen? It's totally possible. If I have a child today, maybe their IQ is only 78, or maybe 8,898. He works really hard at school and puts a lot of effort into his studies. Isn't that true? But the kid next door, his mom says, he has an IQ of 130, or even 140, or 150. He remembers everything he sees. Doesn't that make him more competitive than your son? All right. His DNA has already blocked those disease genes from his ancestors, like heart disease, high blood pressure, bipolar disorder, or whatever else. All sorts of these genetic traits, all right. He made some adjustments, which could mean your child might often have mood swings, might be on the autism spectrum, could be quick-tempered, might have other issues. you'll have to spend a lot of time supporting them. Let me ask you, are you at the lowest level of human society one? Of the people at the very bottom? It's pretty easy. People like us? Originally created by Godin, this age of AI and genetics, when facing these technologically enhanced humans, the humans, created by God-half, become the smallest, the weak stand, the most powerless of all races. Isn't that all relative? Those people enhanced with AI and genetic engineering, the humans who have been engineered, aren't they basically superhumans? So, compared to us, the original humans created by Godin, they like giants. Because they're stronger than you, their arms are bigger than yours, they're smarter than you, they react faster than you, so it's quite possible these original humans, created by the gods, when faced with these superhumans. It's very possible that one day, your kid comes home from school and says, "Dad, when I'm around them, I feel as small as a grasshopper. Could that really happen?" There's a very strong chance it could. So, they're completely altering what God has done. It's been totally changed. The authority God had when creating humans, and also the idea that each kind stays within its own. Of course, some people might say, this is just technology. This is a type of technology. It's just humanity version 2. However, as it says in 2 Corinthians 11:14, even Satan masquerades as an angel of light. So his servants, if they pose as servants of righteousness, that's nothing surprising. That is to say, artificial intelligence combined with genetic engineering may appear to be human intelligence or human achievement. And it seems like I could eliminate hereditary diseases. I could ensure the children you have, your family won't have to worry about hereditary diseases anymore. At first, technology always sounds like a good thing, but even a good and well-meaning intention over time can end up becoming a tool for Satan. So, the actions of these AI beings actually have a deeper motive, which is to challenge God's law, that all things are created according to their own kind. They challenge God's authority in creating each person with unique traits. They defame humanity as the bearers of God's glory. So, who's really behind all this? It's those spiritual beings we just talked about. These spiritual beings have always been around. Now they've just taken on a different form. In the end times, they're using technology so that people will logically accept them. So why do I say that in the end times, this will become a widespread belief? Let's look at the time of Noah. Genesis 6:9 says, Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless among the people of his time. The word blameless means whole or complete. What does it mean to be complete? It means without defect or blemish. It's like this cup here, it hasn't been chipped or broken. It feels smooth and rounded when you touch it, because it hasn't been damaged. So it's flawless and feels smooth to the touch. God once said to Abraham, "Walk before me and be blameless." Genesis 17:1. What tense is that? It's future tense, right? But in the Bible, it only mentions that Noah was a blameless man. The blameless God refers to here is someone who was already blameless in the past. He was already considered blameless. It's not in the future tense. The Bible only says that Noah was a blameless man. Other teachings in the Bible say, if you want to be blameless, you need to be blameless. But only when talking about Noah does it say he was blameless. I believe that beyond his actions, Noah was also righteous. Just as Genesis 6:9 says, Noah was a righteous man. I believe that beyond his actions, he was also righteous. Here it says he was blameless among his generation. So God specifically highlights the generation he lived in. In other words, Noah's blamelessness was measured against the people of his time. What was that era like? What were the common values of that time? It was about the sons of God and the daughters of humans. They came together and had children. The idea was to produce descendants who were giants. I think I understand why they had this belief. Back then, people who were weak physically also wanted a way to change their genes. Let's say I have a daughter today. I want her to have a son who is a giant. As a parent, let me ask, who would I allow her to be with? Would it be with the son of a giant? So, the son of a giant. Once you've been with a woman, her children will be descendants of giants. Isn't that right? So, following that logic, giants must have been extreme common in that era. If you were just an ordinary human, you'd probably get stomped flat. So, to give my child a better chance, wouldn't I become more and more open to this kind of universal value? So, how old was Noah when he had children? Noah had children at the age of 502. Noah was 502 years old. How many years did God test him? 502 years. God tested Noah for 502 years before, and he begat Shem and Japheth. He didn't allow his wife to be with the giants. In those ancient times, some people still hadn't had children even at 500 years old. Let's take a look at Genesis talking about the generations before Noah. How old were his ancestors over 9 generations? They started having children in their 60s, isn't that right? From their 60s to their 90s was their childbearing age, so let me ask Noah, he's already past childbearing age. Would he be worried? But he didn't go along with what everyone else was doing. Maybe Noah couldn't have kids. Maybe his wife couldn't have kids. Could Noah have tried marrying someone else? Could his wife have tried being with another man? Both options were possible, right? But did they actually do that? They didn't do that. That's why people say he was a righteous man. First, he didn't leave his wife. Second, he didn't go against God's principles of creation. That's why he's called a righteous man, and it was based on the standards of that era, using the mainstream values of that society at the time to judge Noah. That's how they defined a truly righteous person. We'll notice that in the media today, you'll hear it more and more often and see the outcomes of their scientific experiments. They're introducing a humanity 2. We're in the middle of that process right now. They're constantly shaping the future of humanity so that it becomes the new normal. They're paving the way for it. It's part of this Humanity 2 movement. They're preparing to reinvent themselves for the future, transform into a superhuman mindset, become a widely accepted social value. Get ready for it. When people accept altering their own genes, they think it's nothing special. Isn't humanity a product of evolution? In the past, it was survival of the fittest. Won't this be even more true in the future? People in the past lived in extremely cold places, so they grew more body hair. If it was a very hot place, so their skin became thinner. What kind of place was it? We have plenty of reasons, explaining selective breeding among races through the lens of evolution. So, what is the world like today? That's why we also practice selective breeding. That's also a kind of evolution. Why not? So, once people have accepted that genetic modification is acceptable, after this idea takes hold, once you accept it, then, in God's eyes, that person is no longer a complete creation. Just like in those days, you're no longer a whole person. You're no longer someone fully created by God. Noah belonged to that generation. He is someone who was created by God in the very beginning. But once we undergo genetic modification, we are no longer a whole creation in God's eyes. We're no longer a pure and flawless spiritual being. We've become a damaged vessel. To put it simply, we're no longer truly human.
I will prepare, I will wait. Walk your path, never turn away. I will watch, I will pray, till all nations